In 2023 fantasy football, we only saw 10 running backs get over 280 total touches. We also only saw 11 wide receivers get 140 targets or more. Now, anytime we see numbers like that, it is a clear indication. It should be obvious that those players are a huge part of their team's offense. But can they duplicate those numbers? Can they get that volume once again in 2024? But not just those guys. Are there any other players we should be looking at that have a chance to hit those volume numbers in 2024? Because that is definitely what we want in our fantasy lineups. Players who hit the jackpot. That's right, you've heard me say it in the past, and you know what? I'm going to say it again. You cannot score points in fantasy football without touching the ball. Therefore, having the players on our teams that touch the ball the most gives us the greatest opportunity for fantasy points. But you also can't join best ball tournaments against me if you aren't on Underdog. That's right, I want to challenge you to some best ball leagues. There are already links down below in the comment section and in the pinned comment with drafts that we can start as soon as they fill. Now, maybe you're sitting out there going, I don't have an Underdog account. I'm going to miss out on this. No, you're not. Just head over to Underdog Fantasy or download the app. Create a new account using the referral code Headliners when you do so. You'll then make a minimum $10 deposit. We're going to match the deposit up to $100, but not only that, you're also going to get a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. It doesn't matter if you play Dynasty, it doesn't matter if you're just a redraft guy, we got you covered up until week 1 of the NFL season. This draft guide is already live, and it will be updated weekly until like September when the season actually starts. So get that account signed up now and come compete against me over on Underdog Fantasy. I also want to put a like goal on this video. If this video right here can get over 700 likes, I'm going to pick a random commenter from down below in the comment section just to give a free draft guide too. So do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment below, and let's first go look at some running backs who had some big time touches. We're looking at those guys who had over 280 touches in 2023. And like I said at the start, remember there were only 10 running backs that were able to get those 280 plus total touches. At the top of the list, it was Christian McCaffrey. Not a lot of people surprised about that. 339 total touches just last season. Now, sure, I 100% agree with a lot of people who think that he could see a slight regression in touches in 2024. I would not be surprised if he's a little bit closer to maybe that 290 to 300 total touches. But you know, that's not bad when you play in one of the best overall offenses in the NFL and get a ton of touchdown opportunity. More than likely, he finds himself on this list once again next season. Next up, it's Rachaad White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This dude only had 3 touches less than Christian McCaffrey just last season. But we also know that Tampa Bay just drafted Bucky Irving out of Oregon, and he could take away some of that pass work. Now, obviously, Rachaad White still going to be a big part of this overall offense, but we know he lacks efficiency on the ground. We can't really afford for him to lose a lot of volume through the air. He's definitely somebody who's going to dominate that early down work, though. Once again, he should definitely hit those 280 total touches this season. How about Travis Etienne up next? He had 325 touches last season, and I hear a lot of people out there saying, yeah, have you heard what the Jags have said? They're not going to overwork him this year. I understand that 100%, but this overall offense is great in Jacksonville. With Trevor Lawrence under center, we now have newly acquired Gabe Davis, newly drafted Brian Thomas Jr., who I absolutely love out of LSU, Christian Kirk back and healthy. Travis Etienne should definitely hit 280 touches once again this season. Next up, it was Joe Mixon, 309 total touches just last season, but he's no longer in Cincinnati. Now he's in Houston. And we already saw last season in Houston that Dameon Pierce isn't really going to be a thing. Joe Mixon in this offense with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Mixon should definitely see his fair share of volume and touchdown upside. Which brings us to the next guy, it's Derrick Henry. The King had 308 touches last season in Tennessee. But remember, he's not in Tennessee anymore. Now he's with the Baltimore Ravens. And no team ran the ball more in 2023 than the Baltimore Ravens. Sure, Derrick Henry may not be what he was a couple years ago, but he's definitely not done. He's not washed, and now he has a great opportunity in an offense that's definitely going to utilize him. Derrick Henry should see 280 touches once again. How about Tony Pollard? He only saw one less touch last season than Derrick Henry saw. 307 touches for Tony Pollard, but he's no longer in Dallas. Now he's in Tennessee, and this one could be a little bit tough. Maybe Tony Pollard doesn't hit that 280 mark this season. I say that for this reason. I like Tajay Spears, and he is a very capable running back in the backfield of Tennessee. Plus, we've also seen Tennessee make a conscious effort in trying to improve their passing game with DeAndre Hopkins, and now they've added Calvin Ridley as well. So this one's really going to come down to how do they split this backfield. I do expect a slightly lower number this season when it comes to touches for Tony Pollard. How about Breece Hall? Last season had 299 touches, and sure, they went out and they drafted Braylon Allen, but Breece Hall is still the alpha in this backfield, and he produced big-time fantasy points with an absolute hodgepodge of quarterbacks in 2023. Aaron Rodgers, whether you like him or not, is a huge upgrade in this offense and is going to give Breece Hall more scoring opportunities, and if they can get more scoring opportunities, maybe they have more late game leads where we can continue to rely on Breece Hall. I for sure think he sees that amount of volume once again. How about Saquon Barkley? 288 touches last year for the New York Giants, but new team. And here's what sucks, right? Now he's in Philadelphia. I just hope Jalen Hurts doesn't steal too many touches. But if DeAndre Swift last year in this offense could get 268 touches, you got to expect Saquon Barkley to get a little bit more. Sure, the touchdown upside on the goal line may still lean the way of Jalen Hurts, but overall volume should be there once again for Saquon Barkley. Right after Saquon last year, though, was Najee Harris at 284 touches. And everything is lining up right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers to run like absolute madmen out there on the field all season long. This offensive line is greatly improved, and they're going to be a heavy run offense as is. Now, Najee may not be the sexiest fantasy running back, but he's going to get the ball a lot in 2024. And then the last guy on this list last season was James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, 281 touches. Now, there is no true alpha in this Buffalo offense anymore now that Stephon Diggs is gone. But there's really no reason to believe that James Cook isn't going to see similar volume this year, right? It's going to be a little bit more of an overall offense. We're not force-feeding the ball really anywhere in Buffalo. They're going to have to try to find their playmakers, and I think we can all agree when James Cook gets the football, he makes big plays happen. But there are two other players that I believe have a fairly good chance of hitting that 280 plus touch mark this year. The first one is Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. He missed 7 games last year and still had 188 total touches. That's an average of 18 touches per game. When you look at the depth chart in Indianapolis, the next guy up after Jonathan Taylor is Evan Hull. I'm not too worried about Evan Hall taking volume away from Jonathan Taylor. Plus, we know Anthony Richardson is back. They have a nice trio of wide receivers to pull defenders outside of the box. Jonathan Taylor should bounce back and eat this season. But how about a guy a little bit lower down the draft list? It's Devin Singletary of the New York Giants now. He was brought in during free agency. When you look at the depth chart in New York, right behind him is Eric Gray, and no one even knows who the hell he is. No other running back on the roster has even been drafted prior to the 5th round of an NFL draft. Now, Daniel Jones is back and healthy. Come on, Daniel Jones got to do something. But we also have some offensive line upgrades there in New York, and I'm really hoping that Malik Neighbors has an opportunity to make defenses really think about the passing game. He is that good of a wide receiver. It's all going to depend whether or not Daniel Jones can get him the football. But okay, let's move on to some wide receivers, some ball catchers right now. And remember, there were only 11 guys last season that saw 140 plus targets. It was CeeDee Lamb right there at the top with 181. And if Dallas wants to have any chance at winning ball games once again this season, CeeDee Lamb needs to be the focal point. No more Michael Gallup. He's no longer in town. They just re-signed Zeke Elliott, but he's not what he was just a couple years ago. CeeDee Lamb is going to have have to see ridiculous volume each and every week. Not a whole lot has changed in Dallas in the pass catching game. They didn't bring in anybody great to take away volume. No reason to believe that CeeDee Lamb isn't going to see 140 plus once again. Second on the list was Davante Adams at 175, and it looks like we're going to have Gardner Minshew be the starting quarterback in Las Vegas here this season. Last year, Minshew supplied Michael Pittman with well over 140 targets. We're going to see him on this list here in just a couple minutes, and they're going to have to do that again for Davante Adams. He's going to be the number one option in this offense. If there's any worry there, it's not that he's by himself, not like a CeeDee Lamb. Davante Adams still has to worry about Jacoby Myers, the newly drafted Brock Bowers. We also know about Michael Mayer. They didn't even utilize him at the tight end position last year either, and a capable running game as of right now with what looks like Zamir White. With all that being said, though, I still have a feeling Davante Adams is going to be right there around that 140 number. After him was Tyreek Hill at 171, and there is no way that you have Tyreek Hill on your roster and not give him at least 140 targets a year. Now, sure, he's definitely going to have to compete with some other burners in this offense. I am looking forward to a Jalen Waddle bounce back this season as well, but there will be more than enough targets to go around, and we've already seen Tua lock on to Tyreek in the past. I think he hits those numbers once again. How about Garrett Wilson? Last year, 168 targets. You better believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to lean his direction. We saw that leading up to the 2023 season. He made comparisons between Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams. If that doesn't tell you enough to say that, hey, Garrett Wilson probably going to be a big part of this offense. Plus, look how many targets he saw with horrendous quarterback play. He for sure sees 140 again. How about Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions? Last year, 164. Now, I do believe we see a little bit more Jameson Williams in 2024, but Amon-Ra is here to stay. Could he see a slight regression in his targets? For sure, but he's definitely going to be verge 140. After him was Stephon Diggs at 160. And honestly, this one, I'm not convinced that he sees 140 plus this year. Not with Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Joe Mixon in the backfield. There are so many viable wide receivers in this offense. It's not just going to be force-fed to Stephon Diggs. Now, how does he handle that? Probably not great, but overall, 140 is going to be hard for him to get to. But right behind him was Puka, who actually tied him with 160 targets just last year. And that's going to be hard for him to duplicate if Cooper Kupp is healthy all 17 games. But that's not something we've seen from Cooper Kupp in a couple years now. I also know we have a viable wide receiver in Demarcus Robinson, who they brought back this year that they absolutely love. Now, while I think Puka still eats, 160 may be a little bit tough. 140, probably going to be right there. Then we had A.J. Brown at 158. We all know that if A.J. Brown doesn't see targets, he's going to be pissed off and he's going to create a scene on the sidelines. We understand that, but we also know that there's a lot of other options in this offense with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, because right now I'm feeling so damn fancy. We got a backfield now with Saquon Barkley. A.J. Brown is still the number one option in this passing offense, and he still should be right around 140 targets. Michael Pittman came in next at 156, but he's no longer the only show in town. We have Josh Downs going into his second season. We have newly drafted wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, who they absolutely love in Indianapolis. We do have Anthony Richardson coming back, but we also have Jonathan Taylor as well, 140-ish. I'm thinking he's somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 or so this season, but pretty dang close. How about Keenan Allen? He had 150 last year, and I would be absolutely shocked if we see him get 140 plus in 2024. Not in an offense with Caleb Williams that already has DJ Moore and newly drafted wide receiver Rome Odunze, who already has massive chemistry this offseason with Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen is probably one of my all-time favorite wide receivers to watch, one of the best route runners in football, but he is going to be a little bit older and maybe a little bit more of a safety valve than a high volume option. And then the last guy on the list last season was Jamar Chase at 145. But we also know that Tyler Boyd, he's currently a free agent. We have a healthy Joe Burrow, and Chase absolutely gets locked onto when Joe Burrow is on the field. With one less wide receiver in the equation and Zach Moss in the backfield, not Joe Mixon, I'm sure we see quite a bit of Jamar Chase in 2024, and it wouldn't surprise me to to see him surpass that 140 target number. But just like we did with running backs, who are a few wide receivers that could hit that 140 target number in 2024? The first one is George Pickens. The time has finally come for him to be the #1 pass catching option in the offense of Pittsburgh. And now we have actually capable quarterback play. I don't care if it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Either one of those guys has the ability to lock on to George Pickens, the #1 option in their offense. How about Josh Palmer for the Los Angeles Chargers? The only wide receiver right now on the roster that has obvious past chemistry with Justin Herbert. He's going to be the safety valve. He's going to be the guy he utilizes most often in this offense. How about Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders? Finally, a better overall offense in Washington and a quarterback that can throw the ball deep to Terry McLaurin. Defenses are going to have to worry about this Washington offense, maybe in a way that they haven't for the past couple of years. A viable running game with Brian Robinson Jr., and don't forget they have Austin Eckler as well. It's not just Terry McLaurin. We got Jahan Dotson out there on offense, and he's definitely a capable wide receiver. This is just more of an opportunity for Terry McLaurin to go out there and get one-on-one coverage. He has 140 target upside. How about Justin Jefferson? Didn't hit it last season due to injuries, but I think he's kind of an obvious person to add to this list. How about Chris Olave? Really not much else going on in New Orleans. No more Michael Thomas. You have to figure they try to force the ball more to Chris Olave. We didn't see that at times last season, and a lot of it had to do with Derek Carr not being 100% healthy. He has that opportunity along with rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be tough, but he is the #1 option in this pass-catching offense of the Arizona Cardinals. They're going to be trailing almost weekly. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has that upside for huge volume. Were there any players not mentioned in today's video that you believe have that opportunity at huge volume? Leave those comments down below. Remember, you already have to leave a comment, so you have a chance at winning a free draft guide. Once this video hits 700 likes, which I'm sure it's going to, I'm going to pick one of those random commenters down below for that draft guide. So don't forget, hit the like button, leave that comment down below, but most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.